I'm Todd Johnstone. I've been the CEO at Allbridge since 2021, so 4.5 years now, and we're really excited to discuss what we've done with Allbridge and how we're helping reshape and in many ways transform technology in high density properties. So, hospitality, multifamily, and senior living. If you think about technology in hospitality and other, again, high density properties over the last 10 to 20 years, it's changed dramatically and it's had to. And certainly we feel it can evolve faster and to serve our residents and guests even better than we do today. White glove service 10 to 20 years ago was someone coming to your door. Today it is digitally and technology enabled, whether it be booking your room, whether it be how you access your room through your door lock, and the entertainment you stream and the bandwidth you require in your room, all with the foundation of a solid network as the backbone for all of that technology. At Allbridge, in the last 4 years, we've reshaped and helped the industry better connect technology from one that used to be bifurcated hardware solutions in the room, now to us providing an end-to-end technology and service solution. And Skyway is just a core part that ties that all together as a total technology solution. And it's a software that provides the foundation for what we do for our clients.
My name is Rob Petro. I run the team here that builds Skyway. And Skyway is our internal platform. It is developed in house by a group of developers here. And what it does is it ties together all of those technologies that Todd was just referencing. So Allbridge is really good. We're expert on installing and managing and supporting all of those technologies that go into these large properties. And what Skyway does is it sits right at the center and it exposes and gives control of all of those technologies. So an easy way to think about this would be we don't really want to pass along to our customers 10, 15, 20 different logins to different technologies that we've installed that help manage and help give insight into their property. Instead, we've built all of those technologies so that they talk to one place, one smart place right at the locus of all of this. And that's what Skyway is. So Skyway, it simplifies our customers' workflows in a lot of ways, and it gives our customers a lot more insight into what's going on at their property and how things are functioning at their property and what we expose a lot of options for what they can manage at their property. So it tracks and displays all sorts of data across the gamut, whether it be network, video, or voice. And in essence, what we want to do is simplify the landscape, which is very complex at this point. As Todd mentioned, white glove service means technology on top of technology, managing a lot of those processes for them. And so what we want to do is simplify all of those high-end technologies that we're putting in those properties. And the way we do that is through Skyway.
As we looked at this again 4 or 5 years ago, and we looked at the properties we serve and the experience the residents and guests had with their technology, we realized that we as an industry were behind. If you think about a traditional hotel room or condo room, it would have a TV, it would have a fixed phone in the room, and the technologies generally did not connect. And the whole process was set up to make sure the most value, the most effective solution was put in the room for the individual phone or the TV. Now you fast forward to today, as we said, everything's connected. The network is the backbone, how you connect all those devices, how you serve them, and guest expectations have dramatically risen. I think the other change we recognized is going to a hotel or a resort used to be an experience where you would get better technology, better engagement, better content than what you could do at home. And we saw a risk that had changed, where the technology and the experience at home was many times better than what you received at a property or somewhere where you stayed temporarily. And we have to change that, and we've had to change that. And so properties have evolved and recognized that technologies need to be connected, bandwidth needs to be appropriate, guest expectations are higher, and they want to have that superior experience regardless of what type of property they're staying at when they leave their home. So the first thing we did was ensure we could have the solutions to provide technology end to end, right from doing the design and drawing up front to managing the service for multi years on the back end and everything in between installation, engineering, program, and project management. Now, if you think about everything that's connected to technology today, you need a capability, in this case, a software, Skyway, to connect all those devices from everything from basic back office functions, administration, um, preemptive diagnosis and monitoring, diagnostics and monitoring, self healing capability if something happens, not requiring an individual to have to always go out and physically fix or address it. So that, there's been a lot of evolution, and we feel that we've helped advance and work with our customers to ensure, again, their residents and guests are getting that exceptional experience. And Skyway is the foundation to that.
Yeah, Todd, I totally agree with that. I think we've seen it just in the past, maybe call it 5 years, how the industry has morphed and how the needs have changed. Skyway itself has been around for 5 years. We've been on effectively what we call Skyway version 1.0, and we're now launching our new platform for the next generation of those needs. And yeah, we've seen it from our customers. I mean, when you live in a place and the industry is telling you that the number one or number two amenity that is going to be in a property is how fast their Wi-Fi is. You know that the technology is really moving into a central location in that consideration, and so we've tried to change with that. Now we run the gamut. Some of our properties, come to us looking for, hey, what can I do in this property? What is the most next exciting technology I can install, and how can that impact my guests? All the way to some of the larger ones that might come to us and say, hey, I hear that this is possible. Do you guys service that sort of technology? And so we're hearing from our customers a lot of those needs on both sides of that coin. So it's a lot of what we've heard is technology needs, new technology. How can we interact with the guests? A lot of, how can I find out where my guests are in my property? How can I push them to new locations and maybe even possibly advertise to those guests? There's a lot from a property's perspective that you can do now that technology is involved. As Todd said, it's no longer just are my TVs on and do I have local channels. It's now one connected experience from when you walk in to recognizing who that guest is and offering them access to their room and making sure that they can order through an app or that the management knows where certain equipment is at any given time. There's any number of things that technology has really empowered here that we kind of sit at the center of. And to Skyway's purpose there, that sits at the center of all that. We want to work with these technologies. In fact, what we do is we integrate from those technologies into Skyway so that our customers, the management of these properties, have all of that insight, again, without having to go to those individual technologies and log in and get that access. Skyway brings all of that into one connected place for them. So we've heard this from our customers, and we continue to move down that pathway, trying to meet those needs as their technology grows, technology need growth. And you can imagine the next step is obviously what's going on with artificial intelligence. How can my property be more efficient? How can I better serve my guests? All of this is coming, and Skyway is ready for that change. That's really what we're focused on right now.
Yeah, great points, Rob, and some key things in there to know. We're constantly pulsing our customers and work who are the property owners and operators and managers and their residents and guests. We work with industry providers on other surveys, and a couple key points on what Rob said. One is over two-thirds, certainly closer to three-quarters of residents and guests that get surveyed. Wi-Fi bandwidth, technical capability, and connectivity is always top two, three at the lowest on their survey. Three-quarters to 80% of them will stay at a property again if they have a good technology experience, which, to be clear, almost means like no event, right? It's no event, so good. The technology is good enough. If it goes unnoticed, that's a good thing. The flip side to that is 80% of them, if they have a bad technology experience, means they will look somewhere else. And I think not only has the technology evolved, I think also some of the industries we've served have lagged others, frankly. Like if we think about booking an airline ticket or trip today, most of it's online and digital, right? Certainly the advent of apps and what they've done in the airline industry, rental cars today. I don't talk to anybody when I rent a car. These are, again, obvious day-to-day experiences that we all have, and we want to make sure that our customers can provide the same service. There also is a lot more Gen Z and millennials traveling today. Over 60% of hotel bookings are Gen Z and millennials today, and over 45% of high end, so 4 or 5 star and above properties, are Gen Z and millennial bookings. And their demand and their expectations, again, of white glove service and technology experience are different and frankly higher than what they have been in the past. And ensuring that connectivity, seamless technology experience, and having providers who can work with our customers to deliver those is absolutely critical today. For us, like anything, and I think any successful business, we can take the technical and the complex and make it simple. And that for me is what the single pane of glass means. Because the other thing that we'll talk about that you touched on is while many hotels and brands and owner operators are pretty good with technology, they're not technical experts in the sense that having that scale, most of them own multiple properties, anywhere from 3 to 3,000. Some of our customers own 5,000 properties. They need a partner who can scale with that technology and who can work with them on delivering not only best in class and scalable technology for the future, but something that's simple and easy for their people to use. And that to me is where single pane of glass comes in, where they would have hundreds or thousands of devices on site, monitoring all kinds of different things, but someone on site in collaboration with an Allbridge individual or personnel or a support person where required can work with them to make sure it's very simple and they can see those devices real time, proactively monitor, work with the software, again, through a single pane of glass versus some of the complexity that Rob touched on earlier that we've worked to avoid, because it has to be easy for our customers to use and they have to be further ahead than what their guests are seeing in terms of if there's an outage or if there's a problem somewhere. And the way we've configured and designed Skyway enables that.
Yeah, I think that's right. A single pane of glass, as the name infers, is kind of at a glance, what can you tell me? And the single pane of glass, as you up your complexity, as you up the amount of technologies that you're interacting with and that is running at your property, obviously that can be a challenge. And so we've really designed Skyway with that in mind. In fact, we're attempting to achieve sort of an at a glance view of everything that's happening at your property. So our newest release is called Skyway with Allbridge Intelligence, and that's exactly what we're aiming to do: is give you that high level, at a glance view, giving you confidence when everything is working well, and giving you tools to fix things when things aren't working well. We really want to empower managers and IT managers and people on property to be able to understand fully what's going on at their property, what's going on with these technologies that Allbridge installed, and how are they affecting my guests, and how's my network, and how are my televisions working, and how are my phones working. All of that should come through what is commonly known as a single pane of glass. Now, we kind of call it Allbridge Intelligence, and we've taken what I call an event-driven approach. So this is a very common use in modern social media platforms, where if you're on the platform and you're looking at a stream of information, events usually, it might be an image in the case of something like an Instagram, or if you're on X, it would be some sort of comment, and they just flow in as you're on that property. Well, we've taken that approach with events happening at the property, and that's really where Allbridge Intelligence comes in. We have a lot of technologies that Allbridge has installed, we have direct access to, and we're able to use all of that intelligence, all of that technology that we're able to access and bring in, and we can create events out of those. And that's exactly what Skyway with Allbridge Intelligence is doing. So it's an event-driven stream that gives you anything from people that are logging onto your network, or more importantly, when issues happen, right? If you have an alert, let's say an AP goes down somewhere in a hallway, Skyway is telling you of that in the event stream as it happens. We're also alerting that to your phone, to your email, anywhere that you want to subscribe to. And with Skyway, with Allbridge Intelligence, we are now attempting to resolve that issue as well. We're making more inroads into the technology to not only be alerted, like Life Alert tells you when you got something going wrong with your credit. That's helpful, that's useful, you can act on that, but it would be much better if it could just fix whatever the problem was. And that is exactly that's the road we're headed down with Skyway. We want Skyway to sort of stand sentry over any things that's going on in your property, and then give you the option to resolve that issue. So we're making inroads with that. That's exactly where we're working now, and that's exactly what Allbridge Intelligence means to us. It's that single pane of glass, an event-driven display, and more proactive monitoring and alerting, so that your guests never feel the pain of whatever's happening at your property.
At Allbridge, we've invested heavily in ensuring we can um, build, design, support, install support full technology solutions. That's why we've invested heavily, as Rob has touched on, in Skyway and the capability. Because again, taking the industry and you think about that evolution from a phone and a TV in a room, and the approach that would find the best value for the lowest cost on each of those individuals. So a bifurcated purchasing process, if you will, to today, what we've seen in many of our properties, that approach has continued, but it's very difficult and it becomes problematic when you start bifurcating technologies that are connected. You get a lot of finger pointing, you get a lot of points of failure that are difficult to understand, which is why it's critical to have one provider who can do everything end to end. And what we've found with the properties where we've worked with them, maybe starting with one, or with our customers where we started with one property and expanded with them, what we found is the total cost of ownership over time, or their return on investment, ROI, TCO goes down, ROI goes up for them, because they have, even though they might have thought that saving money on each technology was more cost effective, over time it becomes very problematic. And we're confident with our end-to-end solutions and with what Skyway can do, because being proactive is a lot more efficient and cost effective than dealing with a problem later downstream. We found in every case, not almost every case, it is much more cost effective and certainly a better experience for our customers and their residents and guests.
Yeah, I might tag on just one point there. I think that when it comes to being cost effective, as you said, it's an initial upfront. It's quite a big investment, but on the back end, with a technology like Skyway, the intention is to, let's say, reduce the truck rolls to fix a problem at your property. Right? We have the insight, we have the remote connections through our technology to be able to do that sort of thing. That's exactly the sort of savings that we want to pass on to the customer in that case. Right? When we're able to limit the amount of things that go wrong that cause big problems, we're able to lower the cost there. So that's one of our focus.
Yeah. And one additional point to this, as I said, many of our customers and owners and operators are technically savvy, capable, they can do it, but they don't have IT teams that have grown in the last 5 years, or that can scale to serve their multiple properties, right? Their expertise is in providing great experiences, again, to guests and residents, right? And making sure that they have their capacities filled, their revenues maximized, and we have to provide and ensure that the technical experience they receive is world class and certainly better than they can do on their own. But in many cases, we are already augmenting, working with their IT teams. We staff up where they need it versus them bringing resources in house and on site. And in many cases, we've taken on some of those IT people because that is our expertise. And IT staffs at almost every one of our customers haven't grown, but we're there to augment and serve that. And that's another area where we've invested heavily.
Skyway's feature set is vast. In fact, that's one of the things I think that differentiates us from some of the competitors that are out there, is that we've built it all into one place, one login, to do things like, I mean, at the very base level, you can pay your Allbridge bill, right? It's a payment portal, not as exciting. Some of the better stuff is our dashboard view. This new dashboard is the biggest and newest feature that's coming with Allbridge Intelligence. It is sort of the home where all of the good stuff lives. This is the event-driven feed that comes in, and we're connecting all of those technology points and simplifying the way that's injected into the application. We're also simplifying the way you consume that. So once you look at this feed, it becomes quite natural to see, oh, this makes a ton of sense. I'm seeing in real time, in a timeline. I can go back in perpetuity and reference any event that happened, and I can see all of these events. Not only that, I can filter by those events. I can see who's logging on, or when the alerts happen, or if a ticket was created. Any of those things are going to all generate events. So this is what I would call innovative. I think this is a really good idea that our team has come up with, and we're running with the idea of integrations. Really, once this platform is launched in the next month, we will focus on going and integrating as much as we can with hardware and software platforms. So we have this process now where we pull that in through a RESTful API, we get that data, and then we inject it into the app in a way that everybody is used to seeing, a uniform, repeatable, smart way. Any of those events, anything that we gather from this technology, you can subscribe to as an alert. So, you can bring anything from any hardware or software. Let me give you one example of something that might be useful there. To date, it's kind of hard for our properties to know all of the hardware that's at their property. And this is important because some of that hardware goes out of date, right? We have end of life dates. And this is not information that's easily gathered on the internet or to know about. And so what we've done is we've gone out, we've gathered that information, we found when these hardware pieces will go out of date, their end of life, and we use that as an event now that we can alert you to. So we'll say, hey, your AP in room 12 is getting a little long in the tooth. It's a little old. You might consider replacing that so that you are up to date and don't have any issues in the future with that. So we're doing end of life alerting. We're also doing that on the software side. If you're subscribed to software, that your property uses, when is that license going to renew? When do I need to be ready for that? We can now show that too. And we're using that. And like I said before, you can choose to subscribe to that as an alert. That can be sent to your email or to your a text saying, hey, you have software that you need to be thinking about doing. So these are really kind of innovative, cutting edge features that we're bringing into Skyway. And not only that, the way we're displaying that itself is unique in our industry. It's innovative in our industry. We've heard that from some people that have had early access to the project, that they've said, we're a good 6 months ahead of some of the competition on the way we're even thinking about it and the way we're displaying this stuff. So that's all very exciting. Outside of that, we have a lot of features that actually enable revenue even for our customers. Let me give you a small example. Our customers, if they're hospitality, they generally a lot of times will have conference space. Well, being able to create a network in that conference space and manage that network and decide who gets to get on that network and how many people and how they'll access that network. Previously, a lot of that was either difficult or impossible just because of the way things were set up in their property, or they'd have to call somebody. They didn't have access to the correct hardware to be able to do that. All of that's built into Skyway. Call it a conference tool. You get to go in there. You can easily set that up. When everything is that easy to set up, you can now charge for people to come and host conferences at your property and manage the entire process, print reports about who's been on that network. All of that is a feature that's enabled inside of Skyway. But even if it's not hospitality, right? We do more than just hospitality. We're in the MDU space as well, apartments, student housing. We can now go into those places and say, we can give you one network that every person who moves into your building logs on to, and they get their own secure network within that network, one Wi-Fi network, and everybody connects to it. But inside of that, you can still, in your apartment, in your dorm room, do streaming to your thing and not see everybody else's boxes that you're streaming to. All of this is enabled by Skyway. That is called personal area network. And you now, as the property owner, the property manager, can choose, you know what, I think I'll just charge a $75 a month technology fee, and people move in. They don't have to call Verizon to get internet. It's ready to go. All of that is managed through Skyway. So we really are enabling a lot of interesting features that empower these properties to be able to make money, but also to have insight and be able to control all of those technologies.
Yeah, great examples, Rob. And if we think about the owners operators as they're planning for their technology, many cases they have some capability, but they may not have the full breadth of experiences and best practices that we do. Other cases, they don't know what technology they have or need in their properties, and that's why they need an expert to do it, and we're there to complement them or take the lead as needed. The other thing that we've seen, and I'm sure we all have had this experience, where the front desk person or the night manager is suddenly the technical person as well as dealing with the residents or guests. That is something we don't want our customers to worry about. We may liaise with that person or work with them, but we take the full ownership of the technology experience, the service, the support, answering the calls off that person. So back to how we augment the staffs, it's not only the IT teams, it's allowing our customers, employees to focus on what they do best. And having, again, a single pane of glass, a simple, effective software that proactively monitors and implements and diagnoses what's out there can help that, and in many cases avoid, ultimately what we're all trying to avoid is have an upset guest or resident calling someone because something's gone down or their systems don't work. The other part is security, cyber, right? When an owner has multiple properties, and certainly becomes more complex the more properties they have, they need someone who can ensure that the network, the capability, all the security protocols, how current their systems are is absolutely critical. And they rely on a provider like us who understands that, who understands their network of properties, the capability they has. To Rob's point, we can go out and audit and assess those and make sure that their properties stay current. They don't want their few IT people running around trying to do that, and in many cases, that's impossible for them to scale to that level. And that's absolutely critical for any brand today when you think about cyber and security and how important it is.
Yeah, one thing I'll add there too, and you just mentioned it. When you do have these large property groups and they're managing not just one property but multiples, there's a need for the single pane of glass not to just be for property A, but for all properties in general. Across the board, how are my properties operating? Across the board, how old is the hardware that I have? Are there any problems? Do I have any, are there any networks that are unhealthy, or should I be paying attention to any certain problems across all of these properties? Well, the single pane of glass goes from seeing information about, one given network to now let me get that health score across all of my properties. Let me be suggested. What are the next steps that I should take? We're moving in that direction. All the stuff that we collect on one level, we are able to bubble up and start making some of those, smart assessments with that data. All of that is included. Skyway will have a roll up feature so that if you do manage 10 properties or more, you get a list of those properties and a lot of that information is shown to you at a glance. And that's your single pane of glass. So that's an important point. Was if you have multiple properties, we want that roll up view. I think it's pretty obvious where we want to go with Skyway. We want to follow the trend here, toward AI, and not just because AI is trendy, but because it actually does create efficiencies. It actually does give better insights. And so we're going to move in that direction. I mean, a very high level you can imagine would be inside of Skyway when you log in. Instead of Skyway pumping all this data to you and seeing in the event view, you now have a chat bot inside of Skyway. And if you have any curiosity about what's going on in my property, any specific questions, or just a general health check, you can now request that of this robot, for lack of a better term, that is constantly interacting, constantly on guard for your property. So that's on the roadmap to get in, is a large language model bot that we get into Skyway. This is the direction that Skyway is going to go. Instead of you pressing the button that says, can you try to resolve this issue for me? The system just automatically does it behind the scenes and then says, while you were asleep, I went ahead and took care of these down APs and these slow APs and these switches that went offline. So a lot of that is where I can see Skyway going. More intelligence, as we gather more events. That's just more data for us to work over, for us to train against, and all of the insights, all of the actions that we can take from that, we're going to seek to do. So we want to continue to bring in more integrations. We want to continue to bring in more data, present that in a digestible way, but then we want to act on that as well. And we'd like to use AI to help us do that.
Great, Rob. And from our perspective, we take what our customers' objectives and what drives success for them very seriously. So everything we do is around ensuring we deliver differentiated experiences to their residents and guests, and while being conscious of the cost constraints and, again, the ROI and TCO requirements that they have. But we are an end-to-end technology service provider, who can deliver the best differentiated experience in the area that we control. And with our end-to-end connected, seamless solutions, again, with Skyway as the foundation, as the platform for everything we deliver, we are confident that we'll continue to work with our customers in, again, an environment that has changed dramatically in terms of technology expectations and in terms of who these residents and guests are and what their expectations are moving towards, right? And they move rapidly. Allbridge is a single end-to-end provider who can add the value required that our customers demand and their residents and guests seek every time they stay at one of their properties. Today, we serve over 8,000 properties, and that's growing every month and every year. We connect with our customers through a variety of different ways. One is we've just made an investment to upgrade our website. So you can find us at allbridge.com and easily go to the Skyway page and portal through our website. We also are at 40 plus industry events every year, a great way to connect with us as well. And through the website too, there are contact numbers. So a variety of ways. We have a sales force that covers all of North America and through our sales team members as well. So multiple ways to contact Allbridge. The best and most efficient is probably through allbridge.com. And we take customers at every stage of their journey. First property invested in, new builds, major renovation, retrofits. I've got 3,000 properties in my portfolio. I've just added another brand. We can bring harmonization and consistent experience to your technology.